Okay, everybody, we've got a really long video today. My name is Whip. You can call me Nathan, you can call me Nate, whatever you want to do. The three options available are Whip, Nathan, or Nate. And we're going to be looking at a build that I've been working on for a while and then playing with. The armor is the build that I've been working on for a while, and then just finding weapons that I feel comfortable with have been the recent changes. Okay, so we're going to look at my subclass first, and then we're going to talk about why I do the things that I do, why I have my build the way that I have it built, and then we're going to go through a bunch of analytical video stuff so we can talk about strategy, why I do the things that I do, how it works with my build, movement, positioning, and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm trying to show off in the background, and I'm getting to, is that I'm using a subclass that helps my team by generating orbs, and with the Season of the Dawn mods, the Taking Charge, the Charged with Light perks, you can benefit greatly and help your teammates if you're using orb-based synergy, if that's the way that you're built. Now, the way that I like playing Way the Sharpshooter is to build up my super as much as possible between the line 'em up and knock 'em down perks, and both of those perks synergize really well with the weapons that I'm using in particular. I'm using Chaperone and Claws of the Wolf. Line 'em up works really well with Chaperone, and then knock 'em down works really well with my pulse rifle. Okay, so one benefits from the accuracy and snappiness, the increase in handling speed for the ADS, that's Chaperone, and then the other benefits from the stability perk, that's my Claws of the Wolf. Okay, so it's a really balanced subclass. Headshot kills with your knife or with your weapons will add to your super more than other subclasses, so you can pretty frequently have a good amount of energy for your super going in the game. I run a pretty decently high intellect stat, not max intellect, but it's what I can do with the stat curve that I have. Now, in the background, I'm kind of showing off the grenade choices that you have. Trip Mine is getting a buff. The next sandbox, we know about that. I still really like Incendiary Grenade because of the utility that it offers, but that's going to come down to preference. I think that Incendiary Grenade happens to be pretty strong, even though it's probably more synergized for the middle tree. Now, this is a Claws of the Wolf that I'll be using. It has Headseeker Kill Clip, high caliber rounds. I'm using small bore instead of chamber compensator so I can get a little bit more range out of it. And then I have two stability perks in the masterwork and in the mod. So I'm using a counterbalance, and it has a stability masterwork, which is something I can't control, but that's what's going to be the weapon that I use. I'm using a scatter projectile targeting that increases the ADS, or decreases the ADS speed. I was going to say increases the snappiness of it, but both are the same point. I'm using a recovery mod. That's so that I can hit these stat numbers that I'm at. I'm at very specific stat numbers. I'm using fastball in my arms instead of reloader perks because I'm using Dragon Shadow. So I like to get a little bit of utility out of the arms, and fastball is one of those perks that once you start using it, you kind of become addicted to it. So in my Dragon Shadow, I'm using another recovery mod. I have a pretty high intellect bar on my Dragon Shadow, which is really nice. That synergizes with my subclass. Headshots will reduce my super cooldown. I'm running 69 intellect. I wish it was 70, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. And then I've got an unflinching for the shotgun for Chaperone. And then I've got enhanced unflinching rifle aim for my Claws of the Wolf. Now, the enhanced unflinching is a seasonal mod, so that will rotate out here pretty soon at the onset of the new season, so we'll have to find something that fits that bracket. But if you were paying attention, you'll note that I had an extra spot open in that slot in my chest piece to use something like unflinching rifle aim or something like that, just the basic version. It's really not the most necessary perk to have, it's just nice to have. Now in the background you're going to note that I don't have any auto rifles equipped, and yet I still have an auto rifle scavenger in my boots. And you're probably wondering, well, why do you have an auto rifle scavenger? That's in case I want to switch over to something like Wave Splitter or Cold Heart or Prometheus Lens. It's not for any of the weapons that I actually have in this current build that you're going to see, but it is something that I use in other builds. So I do keep the auto scavenger because the beam rifles do benefit from the auto scavenger, and I might as well. Now the cloak, I'm using the high energy fire. That's the damage buff. You get a flat 20% damage buff until your next kill with a weapon. That's the most important part. Until your next kill with a weapon, ability kills do not remove the charge with light benefit, and your weapons will have a 20% damage buff. So the cloak has charge with fire. My legs have the perk that allows, the mod that allows me to pick up orbs to become charged with light. And then my helmet has a perk called stacks on, it's not stacks on stacks, it's charged up, that's what it is. And that lets me have an additional charge on top of the base number, which is 2. So that means that I can get up to 3 stacks of charged with light, and that means that my weapons will have an increase in their damage for 3 kills, so long as I'm getting kills with my weapons. If I'm getting kills with my abilities, then I keep my stack longer. Now I have a damage bolstering perk on my primary, and Chaperone gets a damage boost to precision shots when you have the Roadborne active. So Charged with Light is going to affect the way that they feel. Now what we're doing here is we're going to look at some of the positioning plays and the thoughts and decisions that go behind the way that I'm moving through the map. This is for self-learning, and this is also for just analyzing the footage. So we're going to take a look at the overall clip first, in fast motion, the way that it happened in the game, and then we're going to slow it down and break it up and look at kind of what goes through the player's head when you're doing, like when you're moving through the map and why you're moving through the map, and when you're choosing to push, why you're choosing to push, why I'm ADS, why I'm not ADS, stuff like that. Okay, so there's going to be a couple of clips that we're going to look at this on. There's some on Dead Cliffs, I think that's where we're at now, or maybe I'm mistaking the name. I think I might be mistaking the name for that. And then we're going to look at Javelin 4, and then I've got another clip to talk about elimination that's coming up after this. So we're going to get into the first slow-mo clip and analyze this. So I dodge through this doorway, I see somebody pop up, I hip fire at first just to put some damage, but I notice that there's 2 other people that kind of spring into the camera, or spring into view. Now, the reason why I'm dipping out and then re-engaging instantly is 1, because I see 2 of my teammates that are making a push the same direction that I'm going towards, and I know that if I help them push, then we can fight back the people that are trying to push our zone. So even though I'm weak at the time of seeing my teammates trying to re-engage, I know that since I'm with my teammates, I can help them out to the best of my ability, even though I'm weak, to re-push the zone, and that gives us a more dominant position in that space. So I re-engage because I see my teammates, even though I know that there's 2 or 3 people in the background that are set up in a pretty good position to check that lane. So here, I'm on the lane a little bit, and I'm trying to dip in with my teammate. My teammate's here, I'm trying to support him. I misread the movement of one of those players, and then there was another person that was behind that guy, so I couldn't really engage effectively with that. So I kind of let down my teammate a little bit in that position, but the main point was to try and maintain that aggressive push, and that all started because of the way that I peeked the lane, saw 3 people, dipped out, and then saw 2 of my teammates coming to reinforce me, and then re-engaged because I saw my 2 teammates. Even though I was weak, I pushed back again. I didn't cycle all the way through the map, and because I didn't cycle all the way back through the map until I was recovered, we were able to push the 3 people that were originally going to try and push C back, and then we secured kind of that area, and that means that we had a stronger map presence in this corner of the map, even though I died later on. So here, this is one of the flaws of running something like a high accuracy weapon, is that if you miss, it feels really bad, right? And there's going to be a couple of sections in this particular clip where I do miss my shot, and it costs me in the future. So one of the high risk, high reward factors of the Chaperone, even though it's a fantastic shotgun, is that if you miss, you do get punished for it. Now here, this is all mistakes that I'm making. I'm struggling to aim and maintain a consistent shot on that opponent right there. I couldn't steady my aim, and I couldn't track effectively, and I actually fell off of my mouse map trying to keep up with that opponent. So here, we're going to see that I blanked this shot, and then I meleeed too early, so he was able to clean that up as well. So those were some good examples of movement and some bad examples of movement. This is a clip on Javelin 4. We're just kind of in a position where it's at the onset of the game. We're taking advantage of the pretty regular movement that people take on that map. A lot of people will go straight to the open lane, and if you can lock down the open lane in the beginning of the map or in the beginning of the game, then you have a pretty solid push to C, and then you have a lockdown, pretty easy fight over B when you have 2 zones instead of 1. instead of trying to fight over B, which is a much more complicated lane to take. So here what I'm doing, I'm trying to capitalize on the range that I have and support my team. Pulse rifles have really good range. They have a pretty consistent way of dealing damage and helping out your team. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to locate as many lanes as possible and identify where my team is and then support where my team isn't. So my team is all on C. I'm still securing the heavy. That enables me to grab heavy while we've made a solid push through to C from A. And now we know that the team is flipped. We've effectively flipped their spawn, and now we're holding down B and pushing through to A. So you can see the rest of my team is pushing in from B into C from the center. So it's important because I managed to pick up heavy to lock down that outer lane, and that makes it harder for the enemy to contest that area. So that's just kind of like the main general scope and reason for why you would move through there. We're looking, I think, because it's 39-6, we thought that they were starting to leave the match, but here we're just I'm using my abilities to try and lock down this section of the map a little bit more effectively, just using my movement and cover as much as possible. Now here, this is a part that we're going to look at a little bit more in depth. So you can see that I'm trying to keep my distance, and even though I'm not seeing anybody, I'm using an exotic that has a lot of benefits to my character after I dodge. So for me, when I'm using this build, I'm actually dodging even though I'm not in combat as often as possible because I have a low base mobility stat, and when I dodge, I have a boost to my mobility stat, so that helps me outstrafe and move a little bit better. Unfortunately, in that position, I got head glitched and I couldn't really react. And in that position, I just couldn't react fast enough to my opponent going vertical with Mindbenders. My opponent obviously went vertical with Mindbenders. Pellet shotties don't require accuracy. Even if I would have bodied that opponent, I wouldn't have done enough damage to actually clean up that kill. So what I was trying to do, and couldn't, I failed to do it, was clean up the kill with a precision, but he was too vertical by the time that I had already tried to line it up. Now here, I couldn't hit the opponent because I didn't have an angle with my super because he was hiding behind a box. But we have multiple people that are pushing up on this lane, so I decided to go vertical and hip fire instead of ADS. So your hip fire movement is faster than your ADS, and what I'm trying to do here is support my teammate who's gone out on a limb to super through this area. Now we're going to rotate out here, which is pretty interesting. So I'm going to cover his position that he landed in, and he's going to cover my old one. I'm going to use this cover. I'm going to snap to the nearest threat because I see that he's in a rift, and I'm going to try and create crossfire on his location as much as possible. That will allow us to lock down this area. So whenever I see my teammates pushing into an area, I try and make a point to push with them as best I can and try and set up either a crossfire or support the lane as best I can. So here I'm sort of caught out on a limb and I get cracked by this dude that's using Revoker, even through high caliber rounds and even through something that causes a lot of flinch, I think, which is the rapid fire pulses. And that's just because of the way that the unflinching perks work in PvP for snipers. They recenter the hitbox onto the head. So that guy managed to crack me through some pulse rifle fire. Here I just couldn't line up my shot. I put some damage in, but it wasn't enough. The opponent was running through that lane pretty quickly. That's a pretty normal thing, but putting in damage where you can is really important. So what I'm trying to do here, you can see the radar, there's a lot of people on my team that are behind me, but I'm trying to make sure that we can at least maintain the center. And because I dodged before I started this gunfight, I was actually able to outstrafe this guy and his sniper. So what I'm doing here is I'm pre-firing in case he decides to peek. I get caught with a reload, but my exotic allows me to reload faster. I managed to proc Headseeker in that last gun burst, and that enabled me to keep up some fire there. Now here, I'm taking a lot of damage from Thorn, so I need to rotate back. I've got teammates on my left and teammates on my right, and I'm trying to support them as much as possible. I put in some pre-fire as best I could, but I had to rotate out. So I rotated out and engaged as quickly as possible back into the fight, and I put a good solid burst into one opponent off of spawn and reinforced my teammate who was going around the back. Now here I get outplayed by a mountaintop and sniped, but because I was able to put damage on multiple targets, we ended up getting a pretty good solid assist there. We're going to fast forward a little bit in this clip here. Now here I managed to pick somebody that was sniping on the side lane. That enables me to get kill clip. I have a damage boost. You'll notice that I'm hitting 35 from the head seeker round and 32 from the base. They peek up again. I managed to dodge into some cover. I see my teammate again is making a push here, but I know there's two people there, so I don't want to over push, but I also want to make sure that I can support this lane as best as possible. She covers me on the right, and then I try and cover the center and create some flinch on the targets that are over by the wall here. So we managed to clean up that section really well, even though I was weak and I knew that there were two people there. I saw a teammate. I flipped the switch as fast as I could to re-engage in that position so that my teammate wouldn't get caught by two people on the lane instead of one. And by going vertical and hip firing, I managed to maintain damage and flinch on the targets that would be trying to line up on my teammate while they were trying to line up their snipe on the opposing lane on the outside of this exterior lane. So going vertical, hip firing allows me to maintain better field of view so I can help where is most important. If there was somebody on the outside or on the inside, it gives me better information and I'm not overly concentrated ADS'd. And that helps me help my team as much as possible. Most important part of that section was just, I see a teammate, they're running the same direction that I'm running out of, flip the switch, run back and support as much as possible, because then they will have a higher likelihood of surviving the fight. And I was using an in-air tactic to be as evasive as possible because I saw one of them was at least using a sniper. Now here I'm just trying to play as much as possible with my team. We've got a really good fluid movement throughout the zones, throughout the map. This is just a hip fire burst. I see my teammate in there. Save my teammate actually. Just by putting some shots in, by maintaining hip fire. Now here I'm actually really struggling to maintain my accuracy on this opponent, but the teammate that I just saved by putting in one singular burst from hip fire comes cycling out with a super and cleans up both of the targets that I was fighting and struggling with. And I managed to pick up the buff from his orbs, which gives me an increased damage. So now I have Charged with Light ×2, and I get saved twice by 2 supers, and I'm trying to help out my team as much as possible. So now I know that I have my Charged with Light buff. I'm able to support my team as best I can. I'm trying to maintain a good line of sight on my opponents. I see that people are cleaning up the kills that are on the outside. And that means that I have time to take a break and cap a zone to ensure that we don't lose the rest of the map, or the rest of the match. So I still have my Charge with Light buff here, Charge with Light ×3. We're going to rotate up. The damage buff will enable me to engage this lane even from a far range and still put in sufficient damage, especially with this archetype of pulse. Now my teammate is trying to contest this area, so I'm trying to move as fast as possible into this area. I see the Orb of Light on my right. I ignore it because I'm at maximum stacks, and I'm pre-firing on this barricade, and that enables me to clean up this Titan that's pushing into this area. I know it's important to get rid of barricades because they show up as an enemy on the radar. Now here, I'm trying to keep my eye on the radar as much as possible. Somebody tries to get a reversal on us, I can finally pick up that last orb, and that will enable me to get my health back because I'm using the Better Already perk. So that small transition of movement into supporting my teammate, pre-firing down the barricade, and then being already on the trigger while the other Titan is pushing into that doorway allows me to clean that up, proc kill clip, go hit fire, clean up the opponent that was trying to get a flank, and then I can regen my health off of the orb that I left there on purpose. Now I missed my knife. I was going to try and pre-knife into the door, but my strafe pattern was bad. I see another Orb of Light. I pick it up. That time I get supercharged, and then I can carry that super in through the rest of the map. I'm not going to stay there. My teammate has a super. He's going to clean that up, so I can focus on just capping the zone. And I think from here, we're just going to focus on capping the zone, and then we're just going to move out through the rest of the map. Okay, so that was a lot of talking. This is going to be a little bit faster. This is an elimination game that I played, same loadout, not with some teammates that I normally play with. I have the footage slowed down so I can actually keep up with it, and we're going to look at the mistakes that we made here. Now, in the early section of this map, a lot of people like to contest this center area. So it's a pretty common high traffic place for people to go, and it's also one of those kind of default autopilot zones, and that's basically why I'm using this footage in general to talk about this section. So we got a really quick cleanup. You can run through the round really quick if you win your zones or if you win your ones in this position, but if you don't win your ones in the center position, then you need to reevaluate your tactics really quickly. So I don't like pushing the center in that position. You're going to see me break off here on the next spawn because we won the first round, but it was kind of by luck, and I want to take a flank and take advantage of my opponents going into autopilot into the center on this area. Now this hallway is so important on this map because it divides the entire map. Now what you're gonna see is both of my teammates are down. That's exactly what I was talking about. If you push the center and you don't win your ones, you are out 2 or 3 people and you could possibly lose the round just like that, really quickly without any problem. So I actually send a message to my teammates, please don't push the center. They're going to capitalize on it every time. So now what you're going to see here is because I know my team is pushing center, I'm pushing with them, but I'm taking a roundabout route because I know that if I slow down my movement through that section, I can get a better angle on either where my opponents are, and I can also see what my teammates are doing while they're pushing that center position. Now my teammates are getting kills in the background. We locked that round down. That was fine. Again, I don't like pushing that center position, but I know that I need to support my team where they're going, and if I'm doing some roundabout flanks all the time, then that's not going to be supporting my team as best I can. So I do try and support my team as best as possible. Now here again, I've established a pattern by going for a flank, which means that I've diverted one of the opponent's attentions to focusing on this hallway, which will increase the survival time of my teammates as they're in the center. So my theory was that maybe my opponent will push through this hallway and I can capitalize on it. But my team was too far forward in the center position, and I tried to slide through and get some picks, but I couldn't. And that's just kind of how the round goes. Once you're separated by too much distance through that hallway and your opponents are really on your teammates' orbs, there's not much you can do in that position. So you will see a message come up in the bottom right-hand side, not in this round, but in the next one. What I'm doing is I'm watching my team's movement to see what routes they're taking to set up in the beginning of the game. Okay, so I'm trying to analyze what my team's doing so I can best support them. I know that we're going to keep losing rounds if I can't come in and support. So I try and go vertical, time my push with my teammate as much as possible, but I get outlaned. Now you're going to see a split happen here. One person is going to flank my teammate. He manages to get a pick, but there's somebody up in the top right corner. And that's where, this is the round where I decide to say something to my teammate, is because they're getting pinched in this central location. We need to start reevaluating our tactics and mixing it up. Okay, if we don't mix it up, we're going to continue to lose the round. I don't want to do that. I want to win. Accidental caps lock. Caps lock is my heavy weapon. So you can see don't push middle please, and then don't keep pushing center. That's something that they kept doing, but my team actually responds and they react to the feedback. Now you can see I actually have a teammate with me, so we're pushing the hallway. This hallway is really important. It's the dividing factor between the entire map. And now we're not losing 2 lives in the center. And our teammate is playing a little bit farther back, and we've diverted a lot of the attention onto this section. Now we're destroying the barricade. That frees up the radar, and you can see we've got this lane controlled, and our teammate goes down, so we get an audio cue, and we have a much tighter lane to control when we're defending that central cave. So when we re-peek and re-engage with the people that took down our teammate, we have a cleaner line of sight and a more concentrated line of sight. It's the same for them, but that's the flip side that you take. But now we can make an effective push as a team because we have 2 people in a more controlled area and a more controlled lane. Center lane, there's too many alternating versions, areas of cover. There's a corner that you can slide around with a shotgun and get picks on. Now you can see my teammate is noticing, oh hey, we should probably push a different position. So one of the things that you can do is rotate through that section of the map right there, and that will give you a pretty solid flank if your team is controlling that hallway really well. Which is why it's really important to control that hallway. It's really important to control the hallway because it dictates the flow of the map. Now my team still pushes center, but we managed to clean it up because the opponents are still pushing center. But my team stays farther back that time. So even though they pushed center, they stayed farther back and made the opponents aggress past the positions that are offering as much cover as possible. And that's why my team kept dying in the center position, is because if you're playing your cover really well in that section of the map, especially on the spawn that we have this turn, then you can clean up some pretty easy kills. But if you play to the defensive characteristics of the other spawn, then you have the advantage. Now here, I'm not paying attention to my radar, and I get mind-bendered from the corner. I got greedy because I saw somebody jumping up onto that ledge, and the guy with the mind-bender who was crouching around the corner, he managed to do what he was supposed to do. Now my team actually comes through and cleans up this position, and the reason why is because there was one less person in the center for my team to combat. So even though my team is pushing center, by pushing middle, I'm diverting my opponent's resources to have to deal with me in the center. Now my team gets my res here, which is really good. We have 3 people up while they have 1, I believe. I'm pre-firing that doorway. He manages to clean up my teammate here, but my teammate grabs the cleanup there. We get a cleanup on that. We're going to slide through here. I'm actually shooting my teammate on accident. I'm trying to line up hip-fire shots. I whiff, but this is why I use Chaperone here. You have a long range, so I can put damage on target. I'm full health compared to my opponent, but I decided to go for the res instead. I think the res was more important. My teammate helps me clean up damage on the opponent. He's going vertical, and we managed to lock that round down. It was a little bit chaotic, but we managed to come together as a team and really work together. I think in that position, because I had such an advantage with my health, my teammate was going to try or the opponent in that last round was going to try and get the res, so I knew that I had enough time to get the res on my team. And it was more important that even though I was higher health, to try and get a teammate. Maybe I should have pushed there, maybe that was my mistake, because he was 1 and I know he was 1, but I know how inconsistent hit registration can be in this game when you're going vertical, and I don't have an Icarus grip in my pulse. Now the background footage is going to be some stuff that I'm trying to learn to do with Chaperone. Now Chaperone has a perk called the Roadborne, and the Roadborne increases its range and also its reload speed and its hit registration or accuracy, and rate of fire and precision damage. So one of the things that you can do with Chaperone is actually shoot and then reload from the hip very reactively. And the reason why I'm trying to learn how to do this is because it will allow me to not get reload caught or get caught with a reload. It allows me to engage multiple targets accurately with damage while still reloading my weapon and staying in the fight without having to dodge to reload or without having to manually reload the entire magazine and then cancel the reload by switching weapons and then dealing with the reload canceling mechanisms in the game. So what I'm trying to learn how to do is hip fire the Chaperone as best as possible, and you're going to see that footage in the background because I wanted to take the time while I'm doing this in the background and show off kind of one of the cool things that you can do with Chaperone. To just kind of thank you all for watching my videos. If you've made it this far in the video and you're somebody that has gotten to know me, I wanted to express how important that has been to be a part of the Destiny community. I've been having a pretty hard time lately. I've got a couple of appointments that I've got to deal with here in the future, and there's a lot of things that are weighing on my mind. And I'm trying to do everything that I can to kind of distract myself and just not think about it, not dwell on it. But I wanted to say thank you for everybody who's shown me support in this community and everybody who's listened to me when I've had an opinion about the game or given me the time of day. It really means a lot to me. I came into the Destiny community kind of on my last legs, and you guys really have done a lot for me. And I wanted to express my thanks for that. I don't want to get too mushy, but I do want to say thank you because it has made a huge difference in my life to be a part of this community, and I enjoy making content, even if it's silly montage videos or random build videos or videos like I've made today, which are 30 minutes long and probably unnecessary. But I enjoy spending time and playing Destiny 2 with my friends. I enjoy being a part of the community, and it's really important to me to be a part of this community and to say thank you to everybody that I've met along the way. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.